Hello, my name is Ashab Hassan and my partner Chanel Morgan. Today we're going to be looking at our research study that is aimed at analyzing the spatial distribution of three different types of restaurants: Jamaican, Chinese, and Indian within the downtown core. We researched the top 10 and bottom 10 of each restaurant to understand their geographic concentration. Within this study, we seek to understand whether the critical mass theory can be used to understand the clustering of these restaurants. Do these restaurants benefit from the presence of local competitors, and do these locality of the area have anything to do with certain restaurant clusters? Toronto is conceptualized as a multicultural city, and it is good to understand the idea from the standpoint of restaurants. The downtown core is a hub of interaction and thus was a perfect place for us to use to understand the link between restaurant success, restaurant clustering, and demographics.
This research examines 60 restaurants of three different cuisines located in the downtown Toronto. The cuisines were Indian, Chinese, and Caribbean as stated before. We used the top 10 and bottom 10 in an effort to understand the factors that determine the spatial distribution of these restaurants. Our love for food and Canada's diverse culture was what made this so interesting for us and the reason why we decided to investigate these three different cuisines. Indian and Chinese cuisines are the two most sought out in Toronto, and Caribbean is not as popular as the other two. So it was definitely interesting to investigate the three of them combined.
For the study, we specifically chose downtown Toronto, with borders of Don Valley Parkway in the east, Dufferin Street on the west, Lake Ontario in the south, and St. Clair Avenue west in the north. In the study, we look at the critical mass hypothesis by Patterson, which states that new arts organizations will likely model themselves on established organizations. In terms of looking at it from restaurants, we say that restaurants will cluster around already established restaurants within the downtown region. We also look at the Fan and Luke idea of ethnic enclaves and how it would apply to restaurant spatial distribution, especially for Chinatown. Yelp is an essential cornerstone for online restaurant presence. Thus, we utilized it to gather our data. We used Yelp to gather the information about the ratings, the price, the address. It was essential for us to understand the geographic proximity of each restaurant so that we may analyze how they are connected. Yelp was a platform that had all the necessary information, and you could read the opinions of individuals who visited the restaurant. Based on the ratings provided by the customers, we had picked our top 10 and bottom 10 restaurants from Yelp.
Depending on the type of restaurant, our map indicate that there are spatial differences in terms of where the restaurants are located within the downtown core. While Caribbean and Indian restaurants seem to be more dispersed and can be conceptualized mainly as freestanding, Chinese restaurants exhibit an inclination towards clustering. The Chinese restaurants mainly cluster around the area of Spadina, Dundas, and Spadina Bathurst. This becomes more apparent as the region also coincides with the presence of ethnic precinct known as Toronto's Chinatown. The amalgamation of restaurants is based on commonalities and complementaries, as illustrated by these Chinese restaurants.
In a study done in 2008 by Fan and Luke, they say Chinatowns are typically considered ethnic enclaves dominated by Chinese immigrant entrepreneurs catering mainly for Chinese-speaking immigrants. As an economic enclave, it is characterized by geographic concentration of ethnic business usually located in major urban centers and employing co-ethnics. This is why we see there are about 10 Chinese restaurants located just along Spadina, which is considered Toronto's Chinatown.
Caribbean restaurants, on the other hand, were mostly located within Kingston Market District and around Rice University and Dundas. For the most part, these restaurants are usually not sit down restaurants and tend to be for express or to go foods, which explains why Dundas is the location of choice, as the student population is always looking for food that is easy to take away.
As for Indian cuisine, those were the most dispersed within the regions covered and the areas of downtown Toronto.
Insofar, it is evident that the three cuisines that were covered differed in their own ways for this research. For Caribbean cuisines, the restaurants focused on themselves, choosing to be independent and catering to the consumers in the area. Indian restaurants are incredibly dispersed within the downtown Toronto region, with little to no cluster, and this could be due to the fact that Little India, a district of Indian culture, is not within the regional limits of downtown Toronto. The critical mass idea would not apply to the Indian or Caribbean restaurants we looked at, as there was not enough competition among the restaurants in the region. The critical mass idea could be used to explain the situation in Chinatown because of the successful market of the currently existing Chinese restaurants. While the products may be the same or similar, it is quality that is said to differ, and this was further established by the reviews uploaded to Yelp.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed our presentation.